All right, number 34, solve the problem. We're told the perimeter of a rectangle is 64 centimeters. The length is 12 centimeters longer than the width. What are the length and the width of the rectangle? And I went ahead and put a little diagram of a rectangle over here to the right just to kind of help us formulate and see what's going on in this problem. Because what we're going to do is come up with a system of equations. We're going to come up with two equations. We're going to solve the system by substitution, and then we'll be able to find what the length and width of this rectangle are. So we're saying the perimeter is 64 centimeters, and we know that a rectangle has lengths and they have widths, right? So we can go ahead and let this side be arbitrarily L, we'll let this side be arbitrarily W, and if we want the equation of the perimeter, because remember we're coming up with two equations, we can define the first equation to be the sum of the sides of the rectangle here. So if we add L plus L, that will give us 2L, and then plus W, well that's 2W, equals the perimeter, 64. So we can let 2L plus 2W equals 64 be our first equation. And now to get the second equation, we're going to use the second sentence here. It says the length is 12 centimeters longer than the width. All right, so the length is 12 centimeters longer than the width. So whatever the width is, the length is 12 centimeters more than that. All right, so and it's important that you pay attention and take note of the order that we're writing these equations in. All right, so the length is 12 centimeters more than the width. And now we have our two equations and we can go ahead and solve. And this is set up perfectly for substitution, isn't it? Because the L is already by itself. So what we can do is we can take this value here and plug it in for L in the first equation. And so when we do that, we get 2 times L, but we know what L is. L is W plus 12 plus 2W equals 64. We'll go ahead and distribute that 2, so we end up with 2W plus 24 plus 2W equals 64. We can combine like terms and also move that 24 over. I'm going to finish up here. So 2W plus 2W is 4W, and the 24 we moved over, and 64 minus 24 gives us 40. And lastly, when we divide by 4 on both sides, we end up with W equals 10. And we know that we're working in centimeters, so the width is 10 centimeters. So there's our first answer. And now we know that if we want to solve for the length, we have to take this value and plug it in for W in equation number 2. And what that'll do for us is solve for the length. So we'll have length equals the width, which we just found to be 10, plus 12. So the length equals 10 plus 12, which is 22. And again, we know what the unit measure is, so let's go ahead and include it as part of our answer. And so there we have our width is 10 centimeters and our length is 22 centimeters, number 34.